All right, we're back. This is video number 7, and we're going to start on the Niyamas. The Yamas were ethical observances, as Jen coined them. So that would mean mostly how we interact with other people. The Niyamas are self-observances. So how are we treating ourselves? And the number 1, Soucha, cleanliness. So that seems almost like kind of an odd one. It feels like, did you wash your hands? Really, like we're talking about these great spiritual matters and big principles. But yeah, I think that it is important if we're going to be working with health and doing asana practice. Cleanliness, I think, at least this has made me consider, and I kind of come to the conclusion that cleanliness is an important part of health. I remember being kind of taken aback at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and people were saying, wash your hands, be sure, don't forget to wash your hands. And I'm thinking, who's not washing their hands? Are you kidding me? So wash your hands. So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, and not just my hands, but certainly my hands. And, certainly after using the washroom or before eating, or when I come in from outside, if I've been out in the world and I come back home, I wash my hands. And maybe, again, even more than that, depending on where I've been and what I've done. But yeah, wash your hands. I recommend using a neti pot. It's awesome. You've got a filtration system that hopefully you're breathing mostly through your nose, and you've got an important filtration system there, and filters need to be cleaned. And I know people have done spray things and kind of snort water in the shower and stuff. Part of the problem with that is that that's not saline, so it's going to be really harsh. And for whatever reason, the neti pot is just really effective. I don't know how and why it works, but it's really different from all those other kinds of methods. So wash your hands, use a neti pot, be healthy, eat good food, don't pollute yourself unnecessarily. Soldiers out in the field, it's really a high priority for them. Keeping clean, and they have like the 3 main body parts you have to keep clean, or sometimes expressed as the 5 main body parts. So sometimes they're going to say the mouth, your butt, and your feet, but including your anus and your genitals, right? So they make it into 3. It can also include your hands. What did I mean? So mouth, armpits, anus, genitals, feet. Yeah. So all of that. Just obvious stuff, right? But it's easy to neglect that and think, I haven't really washed my feet in a couple of days or something. That's not a good idea. It's not healthy. But of course, it's very easy also to take this a step further and say maybe it's not just about body cleanliness. Why would this be in there? I think body cleanliness is a worthwhile thing to cultivate. But what about your thoughts? Maybe you could stop cultivating jerk thoughts. Nip them in the bud. Get out of the habit of thinking in negative, nasty kinds of ways. All of these principles are expressed kind of as absolutes, but I don't take them that way. They're directions. And when we have a direction, there's a kind of a concept that I use with my music students a lot about being on the right side of an equation or something. And maybe it's not the greatest analogy, but I just want there to be a net positive outcome. So when my music students are practicing their scales or whatever they're doing, maybe they're not practicing in the most efficient and perfect way possible, but if we're on the right side of the equation, we can tweak it and we can get even more efficient and get even more results. But if you're on the wrong side of the equation, you're potentially actually making yourself worse. So all of these areas, you can be moving in a positive direction or a negative direction, or just spinning your wheels. So that's my kind of a general one stuck in the middle of Soucha. So next up is going to be Santosha, number 2 of the Niyamas, contentment. See you there. Hi friends. Thought I'd do like a little addendum to Soucha. As is kind of my point with all of this, it's not to tell you what these things mean, but just to kind of, in a way, kind of real-time demonstrate how I work with these concepts and how I find it stimulating. It makes me think, and here's where I am currently. And then the real question is, what do you think? And what relevance does this have to you? And so it's kind of a real-time illustration. After doing the little video I did on Soucha, I talked about bodily cleanliness and, kind of a mental cleanliness, about just sort of,
cultivating good thoughts rather than cultivating nasty thoughts. And after that, I thought about it some more, and it occurred to me that there's some other big areas of my life where that principle is actually really, manifested in a really positive way for me. I've really gone through a process with both these elements that I want to talk to you about. And I never really considered that, well, hey, wait a minute, that's Soucha. So it's kind of a stimulating thing for me to make that connection. So one thing is like the cleanliness or the orderliness of your living space and of your stuff, and that's something that I resisted for a long time. It just felt sort of, I don't know, very stiff and nerdy to be spending all my time organizing my papers or creating, libraries with, places for specific things. But a number of forces pushed me into that. And one was that I was, living with somebody who was way neater than me. And it was like, well, if I don't clean up the mess that I made in the kitchen, she's going to do it. And like, that's not right. That's not fair. And so I started to just kind of get on it a little quicker. And I discovered I kind of like it, and I can't tell you how great it is not to spend, half a day looking for a piece of paper that I misled or something. Like, it's been great. And there's this kind of a nutty lady, Marie Kondo. You've probably heard of her. I think she has a book called The Art of Tidying Up or something like that. And she's a bit of an animist. She kind of sees that, kind of relates to objects as if they have a life of their own. And it's actually very healthy, what she's recommending, I think. And it's worth looking into that. As one example, she says that if you have, you've got I have this case right here where I keep all the music that I'm currently working with, or when I'm teaching. I haven't been teaching in person, but all my sort of teaching materials are there, so I can bring them out into the living room for people. And I can close the doors and the room looks great, even though it might be complete chaos in there. But her point is that if it's complete chaos in there, it is, and it doesn't feel good. So it feels awesome to go in every 6 months or so. I go through that thing and clear it all out and get everything organized. It feels great. You close the drawers and you know that it's good back there. So that's kind of a general principle that, what are you doing with all these boxes you haven't opened in 6 years, or, you can keep up on it, keep things to a certain standard, and you can go through, spring cleanings and, getting ready to nest for the winter. There's good times of the year to do that kind of work. But it's very healthy, and to me it connects to Soucha. Another area that's been also really pivotal for me is just organizing, emails and do lists and projects and all of that kind of stuff. And a pivotal book author for me was David Allen. He wrote a book called Getting Things Done. I actually listened to it first in the audiobook version, which is a condensed version, and I found that really, really helpful, really useful. I took the principles I learned from there and I ran with it. It's been fantastic. In the meantime, I also got the book, and I found the book a little bit more detailed than I needed, but maybe you need that kind of detail depending on how complicated your life is. But I don't need to scroll down through my email. I can see all the email that I have in one time on one page, and most days my email box is empty. And one of the beautiful things about that approach, and one of the things he states as the advantages to his approach of kind of organizing all your life, is you get the stuff out of your head and onto lists, I suppose, for lack of a better word. And those can be paper, or they can be, on your computer or on a phone, or there's apps that you can get, for getting things done. It's awesome. And it just it sounds like a certain amount of, nerdy organizing of stuff. But I can tell you that the amount of difficulty or follow-up or stress involved with maintaining those lists is way less than the stress of trying to remember stuff and stuff falling off your radar and all that kind of stuff. And it feels good to me personally because I know that if you send me an email, you can pretty much trust that it's very unlikely that email is going to fall off my radar, that I don't get back to you. And I like being that person. I like being a trustworthy person. And I like, not ghosting people because and I know people that are very successful that, are running their own businesses and stuff. And I call them up and their voicemails are full. And I try to send them an email and their email box is full. It bounces back, and so they're living in a constant state of crisis management. And when I talk to them, they kind of say, well, they kind of feel, they give me the understanding at least that for them, that's just how life is, right? And it's like, actually, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And obviously my life is much less complicated than somebody who's running their own business, you could argue. I have a certain number of irons in the fire, but this method is actually designed for and built around people with hugely complex lives. They've got half a dozen projects, and each one of them is handling over $1 million, and many people's livelihoods are dependent on this, and they're ready to throw themselves out a window because nothing is working and nothing is being dealt with, and deadlines are getting missed. And David Allen would go into the room and say, okay, let's start with the first piece of paper on your desk and let's get this sorted. So your life is probably not more complicated than that, and you can use some really simple Soucha tools to make everything really easy to handle and a lot more comfortable and rewarding. So just some other categories of your life that might respond to the concept of Soucha. Talk to you soon.